I've become a lot sweeter, definitely, like a lot softer. I watched like The Great Mouse Detective at the beginning, and I'm like,
What's the one role you'd like to redo and why?
I would like to redo Troy.
Troy and Abed in the morning.
Not because I would change anything. It was just like, it was just fun to do.
You're revisiting him with Community the movie. Is there one thing you're most excited for?
I'm most excited just to hang out with those guys again, really. I had so much fun on set, and I really miss that kind of freedom. It's kind of like college. You have work to do, but you're like, it's silly. It doesn't matter, really. And that's how it kind of felt on Community. We were dancing like no one was watching, so it was really fun.
I know there was a lot of improv on that set. What's the best yes and you've ever done?
There was one time, I just always remember, I was like, oh, this is a great second line. Someone was pretending to be like at a bar, like a beautiful woman. and they were like, why don't you like buy me a drink? And I remember the first thing that came out of my mouth, I was like, because I'm homeless. And the crowd was like laughing so hard, I was like, I can't really beat this second line. Like, I was like, oh, that's enough. Everybody was expecting one thing, and we got such a good like ending where people were like, oh yeah, this is good. And I was like, that's enough. Sometimes you just gotta know when to end it.
Do you have a trick for keeping a straight face?
The trick I use for keeping a straight face is usually I just think about the crew being like, this motherfuckers is, so we're out in the cold. You know, like I usually just think about like all the people who would like to go home. But sometimes it doesn't matter, and sometimes they're laughing too.
You also collaborate with your brother a lot, right?
I don't know if it's luck or what, but like, you know, my brother is one of my favorite collaborators, and it doesn't feel like work. We're like very similar people in a lot of ways. I'm named Donald after my dad. He's named Stephen after his brother who passed. He was like, you guys always had the relationship that we had before he died. So like, it always feels really good to work with him because it feels like we're honoring on some level like a love story that got interrupted.
It must be nice to work with someone who's seen you at every stage of your life.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think that's why we made sure that we had more than one kid. I feel bad for only kids just because I feel like, yeah, they get a lot more attention probably, but if you're like, is mom and dad crazy? And you have nobody to you have nobody to bounce that off with. Like, you're like, maybe, I don't know, are they? Because like that's what's helpful with brothers and sisters. They'll be like, no, I remember that, and this is what I remember, and it helps.
What's the one thing your kids would say about you?
I talk to myself a lot. I was at the grocery store with my son, my youngest, and I was talking to myself, and he goes, what are you doing? It was like that Fleabag moment, like this, like the season 2, where he's like, well, where'd you go?
He just went somewhere. There.
I was like, oh, I was just talking to myself. Is it annoying? And he was, he said, no. He's like, well, it's weird and annoying. That's him in a nutshell. He's very truthful. I was like, this is awesome.
Is there one thing you wish you knew earlier about working with family?
I know there's bad things that come along with working with family and money and all this. They say you don't mix, but I have nothing to say other than like, I guess I'm just really lucky. I get to work with like a best friend all the time, and it's fun. And when we hang out, we work. Like that's the best part. It's like, well, I'll go visit his like kids and like we'll hang out, but we end up talking about Lando and like breaking a story or something like that, which is like, what else would you want to be able to hang out with your friend and be like, oh, we're actually doing work too.
Is there one thing you want to bring to Star Wars as Lando?
I just want it to be fun. Like as a Star Wars fan myself, like I think it's important that there just needs to be more fun being had. It's very hard to have fun right now. It's tough because there are very serious things happening. And those are the only things that connect us weirdly. So I get why things are serious, but part of the human experience, I believe, is we have a responsibility to have enjoyment. And I just feel like we're lacking in that department. Star Wars, I love it. But sometimes it'd be super serious. Sometimes it'd be like way too serious. And it's like everything that has to do with the Skywalker is like so serious.
Everything you've heard about me is true.
Lando, I think the best part about him is he's a scoundrel, you know, and I feel like people can relate to that. And he's probably like, man, this war is like whack. I need money, you know, which I feel everyone can relate to. So I want to just bring fun to Star Wars. I just want it to be fun.
What's one relationship lesson you learned in Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Don't let a fear of a fight get in the way of, a good thing.
You're sitting underneath a shelter I made. I made this fire. I got you this fish.
Shelter, food, fire, water.
Fights are part of things having a form. You need form in order for something to be beautiful. I get it, who wants to fight? It's like uncomfortable. Be respectful, but don't be afraid of it, because sometimes I think that makes it worse.
You also cast your mom in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Was she a natural in Hollywood?
I was very impressed. I actually feel really bad now because I didn't really run lines with her or anything like that. I was just like, here's the script, I'll see you on set. And she showed up and she knew her lines. I think over the years she's seen enough to know what's going on. When I first got started, she was like, whose lines do you write, Alec Baldwin's or Tracy Morgan's?
What's the one way being a father has changed your work?
I'm a lot cleaner in my songs. I don't curse as much. I think I've softened as far as trying to shock people to make them feel certain things. Yeah, my girl used to see my feed and be like, ugh, and how are you watching that? And I'd be like, oh, it's fine. And now I can tear up at the drop of a hat now. Watch Babe or something, and I'm like, okay, we gotta go to bed. That's just something that happens.
You have a film paired with your album, Bando Stone in the New World.
Do you know how to set a trap?
I can sing.
You're useless.
What's one survival skill you think everyone should learn?
I feel like knowing how to start fire is really, really helpful. Me and my wife have taken survival classes together. It's really fun. It's really cool to be able to make something from nothing. Also, I watch a ton of Naked and Afraid. So why don't they ever make shoes, guys? I don't know why they never make shoes first. But yeah, I know how to make shoes.
You're retiring Childish Gambino after this album. Was there one moment you realized you didn't need him anymore?
I think there was just a moment of I just don't want to have to do this. Me and Fam always were like, oh, this is a character that can die. He always talked about the death of Superman. And I like endings too, so I was like, oh, that's a good way to get rid of it. I just don't want to be 55 doing Bonfire. Not because I would hate it, but I would just be like, I just don't want to have to. I had that on 30 Rock where I was like, oh, I don't want to have to do this. Even though I had a lot of fun there and I really liked that show and I really liked those people and I had a great time and I learned a ton. Yeah, that's life.
What's one thing that distinguishes Childish Gambino from Donald Glover?
Childish Gambino has nothing to lose. Childish Gambino believes in first and last place. And Donald Glover believes in fourth place, third place, fifth place.
Is there one piece of criticism that stuck with you?
Criticism-wise, I think we were doing a show with Berkeley with Erykah Badu. I was really nervous because it's Erykah Badu. And then afterwards, we're kind of talking and hanging out. She was like, so what are you doing that you really love? I was like, right now I'm working on this album and I'm really nervous about it because I don't know how people can feel about it. Because I want people to understand this and I want people to kind of get this. And I was like, do you ever do that? And she was like, I make what I like and they eat it how they want to eat it. How they eat it, whether they eat it with a fork, fast, or on the go, or if they're sitting there listening to me, all that stuff changes it, and that's not your concern. You make what you want to make. That definitely changed my trajectory, I think, from that point. That, and I can't remember what her, man, do you remember her name, fam? Damn, Mary Clayton. She told me to sing. She said, I don't know about all this rapping stuff, but sang. And then she made me eat a fish sandwich she had already bitten into.
What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Simp hard for life. Be a total simp and a total try hard. And love that about yourself.